Hi, I'm Swan, and this is Black Like Vanilla, home for black conversations outside the simulation. Welcome. Today, I'm joined by Khem, a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed addiction clinician, and my oldest cousin. Join us while we talk about Elon Musk, computer takeovers, our family history, including our Uncle Billy, who was killed by the Beverly Hills Police, Black Americans' role in the United States military, and Khem's experience as a Gulf War veteran and what his life was like after serving. Y'all ready to get uncomfortable? Let's go. But first, I have a disclaimer. I implore you to not take anything that you hear here or in general as Bible. Please do the research for yourself and fall into a rabbit hole and see what you find. Knowledge of self starts with you. All right, let's go. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have my current guest right now. This is Khem. He is my cousin, my oldest cousin.
The rally.
He's also a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed
Mhm.
addiction clinician.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm excited to dig down deep, and hopefully you have to promise not to tell any embarrassing stories.
Okay. Nah. Let's roll with it.
so to discuss kind of stuff that's going on right now, I wanted
Hmm.
to talk to you about in my head, I consider him the ultimate bad guy. People don't see it yet, but that is Elon Musk.
Hmm.
Billionaire, Tesla founder, SpaceX founder. What else? I guess he just bought Twitter for $44 billion.
He's
Billion.
on a
He bought a
mission.
social network for
Hmm.
$44 billion. And
Hmm.
initially, when I learned about Elon Musk ages ago, I was really excited, especially about the space part, because I really have a love for space and just what's out there and just how unknown everything is.
Right.
And then also, I was a little excited about how he was trying to revolutionize travel with cars
Mhm.
and trains and whatnot. But the more I started like listening, the more it seemed like he was like kind of just cherry picking a worldwide takeover for himself, like that rich people shit. And when you think about his background, he's South African, with the K, the
Mhm.
Kens.
Mhm. Mhm.
He's a South African, and I don't know why people trust him. How do you feel about, I guess his plan, or just him in general, like the moves that he's making, because it seems real calculated to me.
He's doing stuff that people who have money during this time, a whole lot of money during this time, do. You got your Bill Gates and and the ilk, and yeah, he's positioning himself, especially with that Twitter purchase. He's positioning himself to be able to put his bid in with uh, shaping and molding perceptions in
Mhm.
society,
Mhm.
I should say.
Absolutely. It's like
Hmm.
he's like definitely putting all of his pieces together, but it's like molding the society in that he sees fit. I feel like with these
Hmm.
billionaires, they fall into this god complex, and
Hmm.
they feel that they're using their money to like make the world better.
It
Um
definitely raises suspicion. I'll tell you that.
well, that's what trips me out, because I'm like,
Hmm.
nobody else is paying attention to, the calculated moves that these people are making. Like, I joke with my friends, but I say it with all sincerity that they are going to feel some kind of way when those Teslas start turning into the iRobot. You remember in the
It
movie
do look like that's
iRobot?
the direction it's going in, definitely. Well, you got Ray Kurzweil too. He wrote a book called The Age of Spiritual Machines,
Hmm.
and he also wrote a book called The Singularity is Near. and he talks about, the wedding of neurobiology with artificial intelligence, and he talks about how, you had the industrial age that kind of lumbered on for a long period of time, and then you got the information age, which sort of was a shorter sort of span, and now we're moving into a period of time where you're going to start seeing things instantaneously come into manifestation, and a lot of people ain't really ready for it. You got this what's it called? I mean, it's in its formative stages, but with the Oculus and all of that.
Yeah,
virtual reality.
the
You
meta.
got virtual reality and stuff like that, and so it's speeding right along. So going back to what he was saying, and he's credited for creating the whole IBM computer, the algorithms originally for the IBM computer, but when you look at it, and you look at the Matrix movies and stuff like that, I mean, in iRobot, like you brought up, yeah, definitely, people been trying to hack in. I mean, these phones, the TVs, everything has been about high definition, smart this, smart that. It's people speculating about the vaccine and whether there's nanobots inside the vaccines and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, it's raising suspicion. And there's a good side to it too. As a clinician, it's like, man, I would like it'd be nice if there wasn't any type of evil dictators out there that was kind of, muscling to get the information. But it'd be nice to know exactly, when somebody was in the hospital, when their last hospitalization, instead of just relying on somebody to tell you, you have access to if there's a chip in them. You can just get right on the computer and just kind of see what their damn blood levels are, their platelets, whether they have some co-occurring stuff going on, medical stuff like that. So, I mean, it has you can see what they say, the road to hell is paved in good intentions.
And that's a great point, because it's like all of these things could be used for good, but it's how it's used that's the problem. Like you brought up a very good point about how technology in that type of space would actually be helpful. It would be a good thing, but because of how, I guess the world is set up in regards of like controlling and whatnot, it would more than likely be used against us versus with us. What type of technology in general do you feel is, I guess, good technology?
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I guess I would have to start out again just to reiterate about the medical field. It's beneficial for me to know, whether somebody was in residential care at a particular time, or, what type of precursors to know ahead of time, in the body that set the stage for, different types of autistic spectrum disorders and stuff like that, But yeah, if when the technology is legitimate, if and when, that happens, you're talking about people who know more about you internally than you do, and what do you do about that? When individuals start to know what your inclinations are and what your internal milieu, sets you up to incline towards and stuff like that,
So two questions. Well, not two questions. One's a question and one's a comment. The comment is that I remember when when I was younger, or we were younger, and I would go to grandma's house and she would have a piece of tape over the cable box back when there were cable boxes. And I asked her, I was like, why do you have that? And she was like, I don't want them watching me. And, it was one of those little things that just kind of stuck in the back of my mind and kept moving. But then as like technology got better, I started seeing, like even my computer, my desktop computer, if I'm not using it, I'm going to put something over the camera. So I just thought it was like really funny that it's one of those things where you just like, okay, that seems crazy, but actually she was making perfect sense, which leads to my question. And us, having a grandparent who was very questionable about intentions of society, specifically with technology, would you be open, like if the technology was shown to be proven to work, would you get yourself chipped?
No, I didn't even get vaccinated, so that just lets you know a whole bunch right there.
I hear you. I hear you, cuz. I hear you, cuz.
Right, right, right,
I
right.
only got vaccinated because I
Yeah, I
was
understand.
really depressed,
Yeah,
like, so I mean it's to each his own, as long as you're not
yeah.
getting other people sick and being respectful of other people's boundaries. So in that, what made you and you could go however deep you want to, but what made you
Right.
not get vaccinated?
Oh, that's. I don't know. I was in the military, and I would have to admit, I'm admitting that I wasn't going off of science.
Mhm.
I guess what they say, it was more so intuitive. I have to say, my decisions, um, and so when I was in the military, real quick, I know we're gonna jump off into that a little later, but
Mhm.
when I was in the military and we went to Saudi Arabia, first off, the military, all the way since basic training, something will happen, like some sort of phenomena or catastrophe will happen,
Mhm.
and the military always magnifies it. And
Mhm.
they have to do it that way, in order to put us in a state of alertness and
Mhm.
readiness and stuff like that. And so I was used to that happening when I was in the military. And when we went to the Gulf War, in a nutshell, um, they offered us an experimental anthrax vaccination. And so I said, experiment. I said, you telling me it's experimental? And they were like, well, you just need to take it. And I was like, but I'm not going to take it if you're telling me it's experimental and I got to sign for it too. You telling me I got to sign for it?
Mhm.
I said, I don't want to take it. I'm good. And so, my first sergeant came and saw me and said, don't be a pussy. Don't be trying to convince me that way. And I was like, look, I'm not taking no experimental anthrax shot. I'm just not going to take it. So
Mhm.
I wound up getting an Article 15. And I was out in the desert and I had to burn doo-doo, everybody's doo-doo in the whole, but
Is that what Article 15 is?
well, Article 15 is a punishment, but since we was
Okay.
in wartime and we was out in the desert, the latrine, you had to have latrine duty. So they give you
Mhm.
like the worst type of like punishment. So I
Mm.
had to sit out there with jet fuel, you know what I'm saying? Pull the little thing. There was a big old metal drum, and it was a wooden sort of outhouse type of thing. So it was a big metal drum that was slid in there. So I had to pull out that metal drum every once in a while, throw some gasoline in there, and just sit out there and burn it, and just sit out there and watch it, stir it up with a stick. You know what I'm
You
saying?
literally set shit on fire.
I set shit on fire, literally and figuratively.
And that was specifically because you didn't get the
I didn't get
experimental shot.
this experimental anthrax shot. So this whole COVID thing, just by consequence, sort of brought that up for me. So
Mhm.
I was being a little rebellious too at the
Mhm.
same time. Like I didn't do it then, and I don't know
Mhm.
what makes y'all think I'm gonna do it now. You know what I'm saying? So I was connecting stuff in that sense. But yeah, when I came back, the whole Gulf War syndrome, night sweats and night terrors and dreams and stuff like that, and nervine issues and stuff, being out there with the chemical, gas and stuff like
Mhm.
that. It was a whole lot of stuff that went on when I got back. But yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Well, in regards to the experimental anthrax, do you know if the people who you knew took it had any like issues with it? Was there like, long-term side effects to it, or
See,
things like that? What did you hear?
that's the thing, because people got back and they told them to get on the Gulf War registry. You know what I'm saying? Because of the Gulf War syndrome. You remember that catchphrase, the Gulf
Hmm.
War syndrome.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you delineate between, what you got when you was over there and this big hodgepodge sort of generalization of you know, nerve stuff, dyspepsia, IBS in the stomach and stuff like that,
Hmm.
sweating, nerve stuff and dreams and stuff like that. So there were people coming back from the Gulf War that had all of these different things, but I didn't go any further to investigate whether that particular vaccine was responsible for it. You know?
Yeah, that's crazy. At least they told you it was experimental.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too. You know, if you guys are listening right now, I appreciate that y'all told me that. But yeah,
Like that's the least that they could do. But that's
right.
interesting that that kind of I mean, for lack of a better word,
Mhm.
trauma would still carry over into, 30 years later, to where it would affect current positions on vaccines because it's like y'all try to get me once already, and that was 100% experimental.
Yeah, so you talked about grandma. So yeah, that's the little funny way, you know, my grandma kind of be coming through, you know?
Absolutely. That's a very good point because she's
Mhm.
sometimes she tapping in in there for me too. Like
Right, right,
I
right.
appreciate her skepticism
Hmm.
because grandma is not the type that will just take what you say. Like she's like, nah, there's something else going on. And sometimes she's super paranoid,
Right,
but a
right.
lot
She
of
got some
times she's
hypervigilance going on, definitely.
yeah, but a lot of times she's right, and I think that that was something that we were able to connect through early on. Was that there's the grandma's a little different, and it's funny to laugh at, but when you like actually sit and listen to her, um, she's spitting bars.
Right, right, right. She got some coded stuff, like some
She
coded stuff to
does.
be dropping, you know?
She does. And
Mhm.
I mean, since we're already on the topic of
Right, right.
grandma, I know that you went and took her to Virginia
We had a
last
good time.
year. Yeah, I saw the pictures and I was just laughing, imagining what that drive was. And I
Hmm.
also
It
I
was
I
interesting.
volunteered to take her this year because I just want to be able to spend more time with
That's
her. I
exactly
think
why I did it. Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's weird. When you're a kid, you don't realize how important listening to the elders is.
Yeah.
And not like even just listening to the life advice, just listening to
Hmm.
them, to their stories. Like I went to see grandma in October and we just had an amazing conversation because I went with the intent of listening. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to ask her questions and
Hmm.
listen. And she was just so forthright. I mean, like, she's 94 years old. Grandma has
Hmm.
seen some life. It was fun to talk to her and just like, I mean, basic questions like, grandma, did you want to have kids when you had kids? Like,
Hmm.
and she said straight up, like, I wish that we had birth control back then. And that really just like kind of knocked me out because, I'm an 80s baby. We already came with that, but to
Right, right,
think
right.
about being in that situation and like getting pregnant and not wanting to be pregnant and not really having any preventative options for you, like she was 27 and had 5 kids.
We definitely wouldn't have been in this particular scenario if she didn't have, you know. So right, right,
A good thing for grandpa not pulling out.
right, right, right. Go grandpa, go grandpa.
Rest in peace.
Right, right, right. R.I.P.
It's just so what how was your trip?
Um,
How'd you pick her brain?
I like what you said earlier. You know that I intentionally that there was this sort of overt plan that was supposed to be done. You know, we were supposed to go down there and see what's up with some land, and it was the people we were supposed to talk to and stuff like that. So I handled that like a grain of salt. I didn't go down there with like we need to go do this and do that, and this wasn't what you said it was, and all of that. I already knew Grandma had something cooking that was kind of fuzzy. So I said it's a good opportunity for me to go, and I haven't been around Grandma in a while. I have you know, I know over the years I've gotten into this rut of just being in my own space, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I wanted to go and just spend time with her and take pictures with her and just talk to her. So um, I went there strictly with that intention, and if anything wild was gonna go on, I also was going down there to just breathe and do my meditations and stuff like that. There was a
Mm-hmm.
portion when I was driving where I was just doing a lot of breathing, because mom was in there too, and when mom and
Yeah.
grandma get together, that's it ain't just grandma that was the issue. It was mom and grandma. You know what I'm saying?
Both of them.
Right. And so there were some moments where it got a little heated, and I had to just sit there driving and just breathe and let them kind of work it all out. Because when I would interrupt, my mom would get upset with me,
Mm-hmm.
and then grandma would appeal to me. You see what she doing? And them niggas, these niggas down here, niggas all in it. And I said, oh boy.
Here we go.
She was talking about the slaves and stuff working in the plantations and in the tobacco fields and stuff like that. But yeah, grandma was going in. But it was a nice drive, going down there to Virginia, and kind of reminded me of when we went to go see Uncle David a long time ago, and went down there, and it was just all land all over the place and stuff like that. And then my wife was with me too. So, that was an interesting thing to just have 3 women of different age groups in the car. And I was the only dude up in there.
Yeah, I know that was exciting. I wanted to be a bird or a fly on the wall, just
Right.
there
Yeah, it was
watching
interesting.
and picking apart. I wanted to hear how grandma engaged with your wife because I just know she had a lot of questions.
Right. And actually it turned out pretty good. My wife was Sarita. She was pretty flexible with everything, but you know what they say about the subconscious and how it follows you in a way with your family and your family experiences and the people that you run into. Because my wife got some grandma and mom kind of thing going on herself. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, that's
talking to grandma helped me kind of put together some pieces in regards to like our family, and just like certain dynamics and elements that exist, and in understanding her background a little bit more, understanding her relationship with our grandfather and her kids and whatnot. It allowed me to not take personal certain situations that may have occurred during upbringing, because they were a byproduct of the household that they came from. Our parents came from a good household as far as providing, but the love wasn't there. And so, if you don't have love, how can you give love?
right.
And that was something that I'm learning now, like, wow, my relationship with love is kind of like terrible, and that's that generational curse stuff that starts from a earlier point that just trickles down, and you don't even understand like why you feel the way you do, but it's because it's that trauma that comes from your parents or your grandparents or your great grandparents. Like grandpa, he was a black man, a preacher's son. Grandma's pregnant. They get married. He goes to fight World War II, comes back home, still being treated like a nigger. You know what I'm saying? Still having to deal with the trials and tribulations of being a black man in Jim Crow America. And then, has the wife and now 5 kids. That household had to have been manic.
It was a cold piece of work. It definitely was a cold piece of work.
Manic. And it's like you look at that and it's just, when I was talking to grandma, I just was in awe because for me, she's my only living grandparent now. Like her and grandpa were the only 2 living grandparents I ever knew. My dad's side, they were gone before I was born. So I've only known her. But when I was listening and looking at her, I just was in awe of the survivor that I saw. Like she has seen so many summers, so many winters, so many like ups and downs. And, she still takes time to put her nail polish on and her little jewelry and, those little type of things that she still manages to wake up every day, pop on her wig, put on some kind of outfit, whatever grandma look it is for her, because grandma got her own style. But I just admire the fact that she's able to get up every day, like with the life she's lived. She
She
lost a
definitely,
son.
she got some, she used to be out there climbing trees and stuff like that. She's like a little tomboy, when she was younger. So she definitely has this, like, I would say, just, referring to the whole, ancient China, system. She has a vitality, vibrancy that she got. You know what I'm saying? She's real. She definitely knows. She still be dancing too. When I went out there to go visit her, she did her little thing that she be doing. Where she be throwing her hips around and stuff. And so, yeah.
Well, when she told me when we were there, because I took her to go get some blood drawn for just various tests she has to do randomly. And so she was asking me about who I was dating and stuff, because she always in my
Yeah, she
business
don't give a
like
damn.
that.
Right.
And I asked her, I was like, who are you dating? Like, let me get in your business. You at the senior center now. You always got little friends and stuff. Who are you dating? She said with a straight face, my boyfriend is Jesus.
I
I
heard that.
fell out. I fell out. I died.
Right.
We were in the middle of a clinic too, And she was like, only boyfriend I got is Jesus. I said, all right, grandma, let's go.
Grandma, wow.
She is, but I'm really grateful to at least still be able to have her as long as we do. Like, I realized, my pops passed in 2014, like when you have your parent there, even regardless of what type of relationship you have with them, you feel like you have time. Like you have time to ask the questions, you have time to find the information. But I've noticed that as I've gotten older since he's passed, these are the times where I really want to like call my dad and like ask him for advice, and just get that type of wisdom from an elder, or just get insight of him, like learning about. I never really sat and listened to him. Well, he didn't talk about it either, but I never really talked about his military experience. He was
Right,
in
he
the
was
Navy.
in the military, yeah.
Yeah, and so he had a whole other life. Like, I never even really met Swan. I met the man who was my father, because he was already in the sauce by then. And so now I feel like I'm on a quest to learn about my dad, like the person. And I don't have him here to ask those questions for. So that really like made me want to glob on to grandma. Like, I want to get everything that you got while you're here, because I know when you're not here, because even grandpa too, like I just want to ask, I want to talk to him, and just
Area code
listen.
609-989-8357.
That was a number you knew you could always depend on.
Yep. I
So
can always call him and holler at him. Me and him, yeah, me and him used to talk like we was homies.
well, you also, it still blows my mind how much you look like Uncle Billy. You look just like Uncle Billy. And Uncle Billy, for the audience, is our uncle. He was killed in 1979 by the Beverly Hills Police Department, for being Black in Beverly Hills. And
them
the
jokers is
officers
still laying up somewhere, you know what I'm saying, enjoying their life.
trying to come visit our parents. And he got lost, and the police said that he tried to go for their guns, so they had to shoot him in the back. That makes sense, right? But it's like when I would see those pictures of him on grandpa's mantle, it just looked like you. It was very chilling. It was almost like the only real experience I had for Uncle Billy, even though, there's an age difference there. You're much younger, but it was like you were the Uncle Billy look. You know what I'm saying? And I always wondered how our parents felt about that, because, like, I mean, you look just like him. Did you got to meet Uncle Billy, right?
Yeah, Uncle Billy is the one who taught me how to fight. Like he would come and sit down and hold his hands up and tell me how to throw jabs and throw hooks, because Uncle Billy could scrap.
Yeah.
You know, and
How old
so
were you when he died?
when he died, I was it was, what was it, 78, 77. I was like 7 years old, maybe 8 years. I was living with Aunt Linda. You know,
In LA? Oh, okay, that makes sense.
yeah, we was staying with Aunt Linda at that time when that happened, and
Aunt
you
Linda's my mom.
right. And yeah, I watched all of them fall on the ground and pound the ground and stuff like that, and I just was immobilized. I just, I didn't know what to think. All I knew
So
is that
you
was,
remember the grieving.
yeah, I remember the grieving, and that was my only uncle. You know what I'm saying, on that. So it was like I was just, and I hate, and I swear I carry so much resentment for the police after that. It was ridiculous. You
I
know.
believe it. I believe it, because, like, I kind of was born not really fucking with the police, because,
Right.
it's like, y'all killed my uncle. And then even just kind of putting light and weight to that, I didn't really understand that as a kid, like, the police killed my uncle, but as it got older, it's like, oh, hell no, fuck the police
Right. FTP.
all day.
All day. But yeah, you, and that's a form of trauma too. Having your uncle taken away by the police, and that's a form of complex trauma. All these triggers and stuff that are going on, and that the body holds on to and stuff like that. So it took me a long time to balance that out for myself, and not to generalize all police officers. But at the same time, yeah, it was. Yeah, that was traumatic for me to have my uncle taken away, knowing that he had also, and this goes back to the mental health stuff, he had him some behavioral and emotional issues going on that needed to be addressed. And he wasn't bothering nobody. He just liked to walk. He would be, you see him on one side of town, and he walk all the way to another side of town, and he just, that's what he did. He just walked a lot.
It's sad. Did you ever go to the trial and stuff?
No, I didn't go to the trial. No, I think I was too young for that back then.
Yeah, just like thinking about that, it blows my mind. I know that grandma didn't go. She just couldn't, like, and that's one of those things that I think about now, just like, I can't even imagine what what they all went through. And it's a trip when you see these, like, now with Black Lives Matter, not the organization, but
Right.
the slogan, the meaning of Black Lives Matter. Whenever I
Right.
see
I'm glad you said that.
family, it's just like, that was our family. It's like, it's not even could have been our family. That was our
That
family.
happened to us.
We
Yes.
were the grieving family who didn't get that had the police say that it was justifiable. Like, that is noted, that they were justified in shooting him in the back. It's
Right.
it's wild. It's
They shot him.
wild.
They beat him and then shot him
Yeah,
6
beat him
times.
and then
Jumped him.
shot him. Yeah.
And my body is activated right now as I even think about it. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, and they still couldn't. They had to shoot him. They still couldn't deal with him. My uncle was putting hands on him.
Yep.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
that makes sense with him teaching you how to fight now, because he went at it like, bro, what are y'all doing? I'm minding my business,
Right.
And then to add the fact that he was lost, he had mental health issues. He's in Beverly Hills. He doesn't know. So it's like, why are y'all messing with me? Just get me to my sisters. Like, I'm just trying to get to my sisters. You would think the nice thing to do would be to get him there, but no, they said that he resembled a burglar. I think that the burglar's name was
Spider-Man, some
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man type of thing.
Spider-Man. And when I read that, it broke my heart, because, I was asking mom about Uncle Billy and whatnot, and she told me that Spider-Man was one of his like favorite comics, the Miles Morales and stuff. And so
That's true.
that like
He was
just,
a comic book collector, you know,
yeah.
and I remember the up in the attic, in grandma's attic, you know, there used to be a ping pong table. I don't know if you remember that ping pong table up there, but he used to draw on the paddles, and you know, Black Panther, that was his favorite character too. You know what I'm saying? He drew Black Panther on the paddles, you know.
That is so I actually have one of his paintings downstairs in my
Oh yeah.
bathroom. He did a painting of Gil Scott Heron.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember
Really
that painting.
nice. Yes, I took that one. I have that downstairs, and you know, I just always imagine what it would have been like getting to know Uncle Billy, and you know, just meeting him and having a uncle, you know.
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
thank you for taking that trip down memory lane with me. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
The flag is drenched with our blood, because you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because
All right, so we are back. As you guys just heard, Black Americans have an extensive history within the military service of this country, which is kind of why this episode is named To Serve Man. One is from the Twilight episode, but two, in regards to Black Americans in general in serving our country, the I guess the pull in both directions that happens, because you know we are Americans, so there is a sense of wanting to have pride there, but then also electing to or not electing to serve in the military, and then you know give your blood, give your sanity, give your life, and then come home and be treated like a second class citizen, which is wild, you know, like. So in that, I know that you are a former, you were in the Army.
Yes.
So you're a vet, an Army vet. And I was so young when all of this happened, but I remember you were shipped out to the first Iraq War, right?
Right. I was in the Gulf War.
The Gulf
Yeah.
War. So if you could just give a little insight in regards to like what even made you join the military, what that experience was like. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but what that experience was like, hardships that you may have faced, and you know how you kind of came up out of it. Because one thing I didn't realize until I want to say 2 years ago was that I come from a military family. And no, like I didn't even really realize that.
I wasn't
So
trying to get
what
off
made
in all of
you
that.
like do it? Because you were, I mean, Uncle Billy was in it as well. Was it, did you feel that it was something you were supposed to do because of family, or you didn't want to go to college, or you know, what was the reasoning?
In a nutshell, I would say in a nutshell was grandpa, just knowing, grandpa's story and his experiences and how successful he was in it. So that I would say that, set the stage for me to make the choice or even just to look at it as an option, but, coming out of San Diego and all of that was going on down there and out there Sue whooping, because I was Sue whooping. You know what I'm saying?
Sue whooping.
I was Sue whooping out there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm coming out of that environment and going to Lincoln. I went to Lincoln High School. Just not going to school, ditching school, gang banging. Or thinking I was gang banging or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then, I wound up having to go to community college because I didn't have the credits to be able to walk with my class. So I didn't go to the prom and all that good stuff that you're supposed to do when you're in high school. So I wound up going to ECC, which was a community college, a hood community college where all the OGs used to be showing up at, So I was going there, got my high school diploma from there, was kicked out the house. Me and mom was not having it, and she was going through her thing. You know about that whole story. And so, you live an isolated life, just deviating off a little bit, because she had her issues. I didn't want no friends coming to my house. I didn't really have no girlfriends because I was ashamed of the type of lifestyle that was going on at the house. So I really, and we was moving all the time. We moved everywhere.
I remember that.
Right. So just moving around, you don't build too many connections, and so everything is just fleeting. And so, I went to so many different elementary schools in LA. I can't even remember the damn elementary schools I went to out there. So it's like, in Oakland, just all over the place, Washington, D.C. And so we was that type of family, and, I wound up, I went to the Del Mar Fair. I remember I went to the Del Mar Fair and it was like some Compton Crips at the Del Mar Fair. And I was down there with Lincoln Park, the Lincoln Park Bloods. And I wound up getting into a fight at the Del Mar Fair. Almost got stabbed there, and then, my mom was like, you got to do something, you're not finna stay around here bringing all that drama to the house, And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take the ASVAB test or whatever that's called, and I'm going to go into the military. And I took the test, kind of scored low on the test. And then after that Del Mar Fair incident, I think Grandpa sent me the airfare and I flew out there. And the plan was for me to hang out with him until I was able to go into the military from the Philadelphia MEPS. So I flew out there to Grandpa's and hung out with him. And I went in the military from there. Into the Army and basic training and stuff like that. And, that started my little military career. And then from there, as soon as I got to my duty station in Fort Hood, Texas.
Wow, Fort Hood. I've heard so much stuff about Fort Hood.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. I'm coming out of, I'm coming into Fort Hood. I'm different from California, kind of similar, but different, a lot more. It was a lot more black people down there, I think, you know what I'm saying? And so, I went down there partying and stuff like that, getting into the dope game, getting, going up to Houston, getting wholesale, cocaine and rocking it up and coming back to Killeen and getting double ups, getting payment for it, making a whole lot of money. And so, I just was lost in the sauce, carrying that ghetto stuff into the military. But so when I got back from, I went over to Iraq, and that was, that was a wild experience. But, just being out there, I was driving a supply truck. I had an 8x8 Hemi. I was driving a supply truck with all of the rounds on the back, so all of the tank rounds, C4, all of the ammunition for the guns and stuff. I was, shipping that for the armory over there. So we was doing long convoys and stuff at night where you couldn't drive with your lights on because it was wartime. So we was driving down long streets where it was just a two-way street, and the Saudis and stuff used to be driving their trucks, and you see stuff burning up on the side of the road, crashes and stuff. And going out in the desert, being out in the desert and stuff, them sandstorms and them big old flies out there biting you and stuff like that. Yeah, it was crazy out there. But when I
Did
got back,
you
go ahead.
I was going to ask, did you when you went to fight in the Gulf War, did you understand what you were fighting for?
I didn't know nothing. I remember I remember when they put us on alert, they just said, you going over to be in a war. So yeah, that was a shocker for me because I was hoping to just kind of come in the military, get my little GI Bill, get
Chill.
out, get me a house. That was my idea. I didn't know I was going to get in and they was going to send me to war. So all I had was TV images of what war was on TV and stuff like that in movies. And so that was shocking in and of itself because I didn't know what to expect. But I did know that they said he was using chemical biological weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going over there thinking that it was possible that I was going to be caught up in all of that,
Mm-hmm. How did your perception from TV and movies relate to what you actually experienced? Was one more extreme than the other? Does TV put a little glamour on
Definitely TV. Even when I went to the pen, it wasn't as bad as TV put it out there to be. I mean, but some people that be having rough experiences in there. But my personal experience, it was bad, but it wasn't like bad as TV makes it. So when I went over to Iraq, we were engineer battalion, so we didn't even really get on the front line and do a whole lot of war stuff. We were the type of people that went in, cleared the minefield, and created spaces for people to come in behind us and go up to the front line and do the fighting and stuff like that. So I was in the engineer battalion. So that's what
high
we did.
risk though, right? Like
It's
as far as
minefields and stuff minefields and stuff like that. But again, my particular job was just having the ammunition. So they needed me to be safe because I had most of the ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was what do you call that? Separated from a lot of people too because I had all the ammunition. So when the ground war kicked off, I remember they dug a damn I called it a damn grave. They dug a huge hole in the ground and made it a slant in it so I could drive my truck into the hole in the ground, and I had to sleep in there by myself. I had a brother from New York who used to come in and he bring his music over and we sit up and laugh and sit in the truck and listen to music and stuff like that. But I was in that big old hole by myself because they couldn't have me in my truck with all of the rounds and all of the ammunition and stuff. They couldn't have me around where everybody was sleeping at in their tents and stuff like that. Because if something would have came and hit the truck, then it would have blew everybody up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you still keep in touch with any other people that you connected with while you served?
No, that goes back to moving all around and stuff, and autopilot. I wound up just not connecting with a lot of I would be there and have fun in the experience with these individuals, but then once I left, just like when I was growing up. Once you leave, you go to school here, you make friends, you leave, you never see those friends again, you go here, the same thing happened. So it was like I was just sort of self-perpetuating that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. So while you were over, so this is where my memory kind of gets not blurry. It's just that I was so young that I don't really remember everything that happened. And of course, the adults weren't going to tell me. But when you were overseas, you got in trouble that wound up that got you into jail, right?
When you said when I was
overseas, or when?
No, that happened when I got back.
That happened when you got back. Okay. And so was that wasn't military jail, right? That was like a actual like just American prison.
It was a brigade, they call what is it called? Yeah, the brigade. I think that's what it's called. So I was in the military jail in my pretrial confinement before I actually got charged because I got 12 years once I got charged.
And what was the charge? If you don't mind getting into it.
Guns, You know, I had a 20 gauge in my trunk. I had a 380 nickel plate, a 380 in the front, and so guns, and I had it locked and loaded, and it was it was locked and loaded, so that made an enhancement on it. You know, I didn't have it separated from the gun, so they try to say that I was just waiting to shoot somebody, so that added on to it. And then also I had you know, I had a couple of ounces, not nothing real big, but you know, I was also on a military post. You know what I'm saying? So I had dope on me too. And
so what's the issue that you had? Like the guns were military guns? What was the crime in you having guns?
I was on a military post. They were unregistered, and it was locked and loaded. I had a one in the chamber. Mm-hmm. So again, they try to say that why'd you have it one in the chamber? Were you going around shooting at people and you know all that type of stuff? And so that's how they trumped it up. But I was charged with drugs, possession, and also guns. And so guns and drugs going together makes more of an enhancement.
Mm-hmm. How did they catch you?
I was partying and clubbing and just in autopilot. You know, I was driving, you know, my music. I had 15s in the back, you know what I'm saying? So my music was bumping. And I was on, you know, I was just driving on.
Oh, not bringing attention to yourself at all.
Yeah, you know. And I was supposed to go see these girls that we met in Houston. You know, they came down and was at a hotel. So we supposed to go to the hotel and do the stuff that you do when you go to the hotel when the, you know. Mm-hmm. And I got pulled. Right. And I got pulled over. And, you know, that's when they flashed the light in the car and saw what I had in there. And I had my little Sergio Tacchini sweat. That's when I had the Sergio Tacchini sweatsuit, little, you know what I'm saying? I had my when you was wearing 3-finger rings and stuff like that, I had all of that on. I had all the gold chains on, you know, and a pager. I had a cell phone when they had the big ass cell phones. You know what I'm saying? You remember them big cell phones?
Yeah, you out there looking like paid in full.
Right. So, you know, I was trying to do that whole thing. So yeah, they snatched me up real quick and yeah, that was a cold piece of work back then. It was that changed my whole life.
Well, I was going to ask, do you feel that, I mean, like, of course, nobody wants to go to jail. Nobody wants that type of situation to happen to them. But do you feel that it could have possibly changed your life? And if so, like,
no, in retrospect, it
was a good thing, you know, like
I like the way my life went, especially where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
it all set it the way it needed to set up the way it needed to.
How did you fall into Egyptology? Did that happen in jail?
Yeah, that happened in prison pretty much.
Yeah.
You know,
and did you meet? Was it like a Malcolm X type of situation where he had like an elder that put him on?
Yeah, I would say that. So again, I was in the brigade, which was more military style. Mm-hmm. And then once I got charged with the 12 years, they flew me out to Leavenworth. And Leavenworth is still a military prison, but it's more prison. It's more they operate it like a penitentiary. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you was up in there with people doing all sorts of weird stuff. People that shot up their whole battalion, people that were still from Vietnam doing stuff back in Vietnam. Wow. They still had all of them in there. The difference between that is that, you know, you had a lot of smart people up in there that was up in there as opposed to just the regular fed prisons and stuff like that. So it was a lot of, you know, when I first got there, I know there were some Aryan dudes that threw a brother off the 8th tier. So there was 8 tiers that went all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
Leavenworth was like a castle. It looked like Alcatraz a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And so they had Africa on one side. You know, I went to 4 tiers. So they had Africa on one side and then they had Europe on the other side. And that's just the way it was set up. You know what I'm saying? The Mexicans had their little niche back there, but they was on the Europe side. And then every once in a while they'll come over and, you know, play cards and dominoes. And, you know, some of the cool ones would come over and hang over on the Africa side. But the Africa side, of course, had all the amenities. You know what I'm saying? We had the showers on the Africa side, you know, all the good TVs and stuff like that.
We covered.
Right. And so, yeah, that's how I went into that whole environment in there. And this brother named Pharaoh Nashaka, I remember, and I still keep in touch with him though. on Facebook, but I'm not even on Facebook anymore. But Pharaoh, he pulled up on me and gave me Chancellor Williams' Destruction of a Black Civilization, Doc Ben and John Henry Clark and all of that type of stuff. So I started getting off into Pan-Africanism and stuff like that, and reading about the history and stuff like that. And from that, I was like, well, damn. I said, well, damn, these Black civilizations, just learning all about that. And then from there, I got into the Medu Neter, which is, the Osar Set Society, which I'm in right now.
And what is that?
Osar Set Society. Osir is Osiris, and Oset is Isis, and so it's Kemetic cosmology, and framing your life off of the way that the ancestors used to think about themselves and used to process about reality, in a nutshell. So I got off into that. I read the Medu Neter, and then I read Anuk Osir, which is I am a divine being, or I am a God, I am God, basically. And so I got off into all of that in there, and it blew my mind. I was like, whoa, and started doing meditations, because there was times I was in 23-hour lockdown.
Wow.
And so I would just be in there meditating, and reading and meditating and stuff like that. And then they had a riot in 92. And in that riot, it was, what happened is we went to the weight room, and we came back from the weight room, and everybody knows that the brothers take their showers first. That's just how everything went. You know what I'm saying? Because we wanted the hot water and everything. So the brothers came back, we took our showers. And so that one day, one of the white boys who was an Aryan, he was over there taking a shower. And so there was a problem inside the shower. There was a scuffle that went on where and the white boy got the best of one of the brothers that was fighting him. And so everybody came over and did the little prison politic thing and said, no, he got to run that back. You got to let him run that fade back and all of that type of stuff. And then what happened was it was some Bloods in there. It was a cat from Inglewood up in there. It was a cat from Pacoima and Pomona, and we kind of hung together because, I was up in there repping, I went up in there with the green flag and all of that, just repping. So
all of it.
Right. So we went over to the other side to let him go ahead and run the fade with the white boy again. And he fucked it up again. So I just jumped up and I started, we started shooting him from the shoulders. And then it started a big riot, and the Aryans came, and we was fighting with the Aryans and all over on the other side. It was
and it's in the bath in the showers.
No, this was on the Europe side. We went over to the Europe side and just confronted it
again. Got it.
But we didn't know that they had already made shanks. They had already made shanks for themselves in the metal shop. We were just going over there. You know how
y'all just let's go.
Right, and so they already had shanks. So when I went over there and we was fighting, next thing I knew, I was on the ground choking one of the dudes, and he was reaching behind me and sticking me in the back. He just kept stabbing me in the back from behind. And then the BA went off, which is the sirens and stuff. That's when the goon squad come in. And when the goon squad came in, I looked back, and everybody had ran over to the other side and left me over there. So I jumped up. I was way deep in the Europe side too. I jumped up, and these white boys was throwing kicks at me, little karate kicks and stuff. They always think they know karate. So you're throwing little karate kicks and stuff like that at me. And I remember I had my back against the wall against the cells, and I was just fanning them, and they was just throwing kicks at me. And I went over to the other side. I tried to go all the way. I was on 7th tier at that time. So I went all the way up to the 7th tier and hurried up and went in my cell because I didn't want to get in no trouble.
Yeah.
And I went in the cell, and then I noticed my back was sticky, like my shirt was sticky. And I went back there and I went outside and said, hey, look at my back. And the guy next to me was like, he said, man, you got blood coming out your back. So I took my shirt off, and it was just like skeeting out of my back. And I was like, damn. And so then they took me downstairs, and all the brothers was in the front of the wing. And I remember they was like, what happened to you? What happened to you? And I said, I got stabbed. And then they just erupted. Everybody was like, fuck that. You know what I'm saying? We ain't locking down. And they took me to the hospital and stitched my back up. And then there was a riot there. And that lasted for a long time. It was burning stuff up, but it was crazy.
Wow. So that's like, I mean, like you could have legit died in prison.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus. That that's why I feel like I kind of
That's
remember
the short version.
hearing
Yeah.
a little bit of this, but like it was just kind of, I think I remember hearing that you had gotten like hurt or in a fight or something. But obviously, you know, it was watered way down
Oh,
for
yeah.
me. And I think I only knew because I was eavesdropping. I was over there ear hustling, like, what happened now?
So
So
yeah, the fact that he was stabbing me from underneath me, you know, and
that
the fact that I was doing deadlifts that night. So I had done deadlifts, you know, and my back was already tight from doing deadlifts. And so everything sort of lined up, you know, when I think about it, that set it up where my muscles was tense back there, where it didn't get down to my spine. I had one because I got stabbed 6 times. So I got one that's still back here that you can tell he was trying to grind it into my spine,
yeah.
but it
And
didn't
you're
get
not
through
feeling this while you're beating him, right?
the adrenaline.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was lucky, man. But that was so painful. It was to when the next morning after they stitched my back up, I couldn't even move.
I believe it.
But
You
you
got
know the
stabbed
beautiful thing about
inside.
it, the beautiful thing about it is I was on 7 tier, like I said, and they took me to the hospital. And when they brought me back, they took me to the hole. They took me to the segregated housing unit. And the commandant of the prison came to see me, and he said, "How do you feel about going back up into the wing?" Now they didn't even have control of the wing.
Still.
They did. Nobody was locking down. You're not supposed to take somebody that just got stitched up from the hospital and put them back in the damn wing that you ain't got no control over. But he came down and said, "How do you feel about going in the wing that nobody wants to lock down until they see your face?" And I said, "I'm fine.
Wow.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'll go up there." I said, "I'll go back up there." They brought me back up there, and they was right at the front of the damn gate. They wasn't letting no guards come in or nothing. They opened the gate a little bit and let me slide in there. And them brothers took all of my stuff from 7 tier, moved it all the way down to the 1st tier. And usually the cast that's been in there, the lifers and stuff, they usually have the 1st tier on the 1st floor. They moved
Yeah.
all of my stuff down there and made my whole cell up, made my bed up, you know, put all of my stuff that I
Oh,
got from
Lord.
commissary. Nobody stole nothing from me or nothing. They put it all in there. They gave me stuff and had me set up down there on the 1st floor. I'll never forget that. That was like, I would have to say in jail, that was you know, that was some real love that they showed
Yeah.
me that day, you know,
Especially considering the environment too, you know,
considering
like
the environment, you know. And so that was you know, I was staying on the 1st tier, you know, and then what happened was, you know, just long story short, um they wound up breaking everybody and making them lock down. You know, it was a couple of snitches in there that was going and saying stuff. You know, the police started coming up, taking people down to the hole. They was doing an investigation. So eventually they got everybody to lock down. And then the other tier started rioting, but they locked everybody down. So we was locked down for about 6 months, eating bag lunches and stuff like that inside of our cell, 23-hour lockdown.
6 months.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. Like the fact that you have sanity. Anybody that has to deal with that being a sane person, you
Right,
know, like
right.
because 23 hours to just be locked inside.
Yeah.
How long did you end up spending in prison?
I was in there from was it 91? Was it not? Yeah, 91 to 96. It was like I remember Tupac came out with Me Against the World.
Mhm.
That's when I touched back down in San Diego when I went back out to San Diego.
So what was that like coming back into, you know, real world, and what inspired you to move in the direction that you did regarding life changes, name changes, etc.?
I didn't change my name until 2006. And I wasn't too big off into the the comedic cosmogony when I first got out. It was just like it was there, and it was just I was experimenting with it. What was more so, I had more of an understanding of the black plight, black nationalism, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got out, I just wanted to have a good time. So I was on probation, parole, and I got out in 90, like early 90, 95. And I tried to walk the whole parole thing. And I had a probation officer and stuff like that. I had to go, do piss tests, every day. I had to call in, that type of stuff. And I had a job making $8.50 an hour. I was working for a file center. I was doing temp work.
Wow.
And but that's when rent, you can get a 2-bedroom for about $500, And so I was living in a little hood area in East San Diego. And I was really trying to stay away from Southeast San Diego, and some of the friends that I knew down there. But I would go down there. I think I sent Grandpa my money, and he was saving my money up the whole time I was locked up. So I had some stacks when I got out, and I bought me a white Cadillac. I remember I bought a white Cadillac, and I was just riding around in the white lack, dickied up and stuff like that, and started smoking weed and just, going to parties, Rashawn Salam threw a football party in San Diego, went up there partying and stuff, hanging around with the homeboys.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I did hold that job down. I went and got me some clothes from Thrifties. I remember, you remember Thrifties. I don't know if they still got Thrifties. Yeah.
Nah, I think those are either Walgreens or
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. I went and got me a job at Thrifties. And then I went and got a job in the file center doing temp work, and I stuck with that pretty much. But the weed smoking and stuff, because I had my brother with me, and my brother can blow.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have house plants inside the house, and he would gut his damn blunts and put the seeds inside the damn house plant, and there'd be like little weeds growing up in the damn plants.
Literal weeds.
Right. Me and him would get into it because I'd be like, damn, if my probation officer come in here and see weed inside my damn house plants, and he had his whole thing going on, it was that was crazy. You had, it was all type of, we lived right next to the Blade too, you know what I'm saying? So it was all type of, pimps and stuff going on, and we had the homeboys coming over smoking, and you know what I'm saying, had street girls coming in and just hanging out, going back out, coming in, smoking weed, listening to music, real ghetto type stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what made you like not fall back into old habits? What sparked the change?
At that time, it was like I said, it was a part of me that wanted to do the right thing, but it was a part of me that was also kind of getting caught up in the lifestyle again a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was I burned a urinalysis, and after I burnt that urinalysis, I said, fuck it, I am not going back to jail. I know that. So that's when I went on the run, and I don't know if I don't know what was told.
I remember that. I kind of remember that.
And so I went on the run, and then that takes us back around, that loops things back around to Grandma, because Grandma was a rider. I said, Grandma, I'm coming through. I got some furniture and stuff. I got my, that's when I had Kara, Karen with me. Mm-hmm. She was only 20 years old. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. She just wanted to ride with me, and so mm-hmm. we drove all the way from in a Penske truck. We drove all the way from San Diego, all the way to New Jersey. And I just pulled up and told Grandma I need to stay here for a little while. And she was like, well, come on in. So I went up in the attic and lived in the attic, and she was cool as long as I was giving her some money.
Yep.
And taking care of the bills and stuff like that. And then next thing I know, the feds came and knocked on the door, and it was about 5 of them out there. And they stormed into Grandma's house, with guns and everything, because my warrant remember, my warrant was for my original crime. They don't, and that's how they get people too with that with them warrants and stuff, is they go off of your original crime, even if
Not
you ain't
from
even
what you
doing
get
the
fraction. Yeah.
anymore. So remember, my original charge was I had a locked and loaded. I had a gun that was loaded. So when they sent the people to come get me, they told them that I was loaded, that I had a loaded weapon. So they came in the house with guns drawn and everything. And I tried to go in on the second floor. I tried to go in grandma's old room in that little closet in the back, that big old closet. I tried to go in there and hide in there, and they came right up in there and got me. And he was like, he said, "Are you stupid?" He said, "We could have killed you. We could have shot you. Do you know what your warrant was saying?" And so they took me and handcuffed me and put me in belly chains and took me to the airport and sent me right back to Leavenworth. And so I went right back to Leavenworth for another little stint. I did an extra 2 years before I got a federal transfer. And when I got a federal transfer, that's when I went to the Fed prison, and I went to Marion in Illinois, and Oklahoma. I went to Oklahoma, and then I went to Marion. And I did the rest of my time in Marion before I got probation again, or parole again.
So what was your total amount that you spent?
7 years.
Okay. And so that second time you got out, you were like, nah, not doing this again.
No, we said we're not going to do this. Yeah, that second time I got out, I was with the boy's mom at the time, and she had everything set up. She was riding with me the whole time. The whole time I was locked up, she would come up and visit me every 2 months. She would visit me, pay them big ass phone bills, because we talked damn near every night.
Every night.
You know what I'm saying? So she was out there working and paying for all of that. I give her much respect for that, even though things got wicked in the end.
Yeah.
She still got, I still got love for her for how we did our little thing back in the day.
She held you down.
She held me down for real. So I got out and went to Utah into a halfway house, and went and worked for a call center, did all the stuff I was supposed to do, went to their little crime classes and NA and got they diagnosed me with narcissistic personality disorder, of course.
I think that's contagious in our family.
And I wound up getting out, and she had an apartment. I stayed with her. I worked. We got married. And then I had Khem.
And so what was your experience like? Like you mentioned it a little bit as far as finding jobs after you got out, because I know that that's something that people who've spent time in prison and in jail struggle with, as far as like getting back into humanity and being hired, being treated with respect and whatnot, and even having to deal with the fact that their right to vote, or their civil duties that are with a citizen of the nation have been revoked from them from because of that experience. Did that have anything to do with the career path you ended up going in?
What happened is when I got out, it's like my dad told me, don't divulge, don't be divulging too much. You know what I'm saying? Just answer whatever is asked of you. So when I got out and they said, have I ever been convicted of a felony? I got a federal number, but I didn't get convicted in a federal court. I got court-martialed.
Yeah.
I just kept it at that. If you ask any extra questions, I'll tell you I got court-martialed. But being convicted under the UCMJ is different from being convicted under Title 19 with the federal system. So when they asked me that, I put no. And so
not a lie.
Right. And so if they want to push further to know what happened with me, they'd have to go through Falls Church, Virginia, and see and request the military stuff to see what's behind my case, or either or FBI or fingerprints and stuff like that. So I wound up working for when Priceline.com and stuff like that. I wound up getting a job at a call center where I was doing that, and I just stuck with that and did that until I got promoted to be a quality analyst. and I was doing quality assurance for Priceline and Voice Stream when they had Voice Stream out and all of that, you know. And yeah, I started doing that, and then while I was doing that, I wound up going to the University of Phoenix and taking some extra classes, because when I was locked up the first time, the way they had it set up, before they took all of it away after the riot, they took all of the programs away. But before the riot, they had a Kansas City Community College would come into the prison and run a program where you could get credits and stuff and set yourself up to go to college. And so I was doing that while I was locked up. So I already had college credits, and I just continued to work on my college credits, and I translated them into University of Phoenix. And I just did the University of Phoenix thing for my bachelor's in human services. And I wound up getting a bachelor's in human services while I was in Utah, because I didn't know nobody in Utah. I didn't have nobody to get in trouble with, you know what I'm saying? And so I was focused, and I was with Kara, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, that was my life. So I just went to school and went to work.
So can you just dive in quickly in regards to the kind of work that you do now, and if you're able to touch the people who may have been you know, like back then?
Yes, that's a good question. Currently, right now, I got my own private practice. You know, I'm in my office right now. You know, I have I'm on board with all the insurance companies, you know what I'm saying, and Medicare, everybody, Tri-West, you know, military, all of that type of stuff. And but yeah, and also I am with the Therapists of Color collaboration. I know I sent you that link.
Yep.
And so we have we got together, it was formed, just in a nutshell, we got together and did a grant proposal so that we can get funding for individuals who are victims of crime. And so it's based off of kind of like the statistics that Michelle Alexander put out. It's kind of based on, you know, Black men in prison and being victims and perpetrators, actually, you know, providing free, you know, 20 sessions, you know, at a free therapy for individuals who qualify as being victims of crime or have family members who have victims of crime. And so
that's helpful.
That's what I'm doing right now. I am you know, I have some of my clients that are through that, and then I have some of my clients that are just, you know, through my private practice through Psychology Today, you know. But when I was in going back real quick before I got out the second time, when I was in Marion, and I was working at the water plant, and I was working for this like racist, I mean, this dude was just straight up racist anyway, you know, straight up Klansman, you know what I'm saying? And he had a problem with me, you know, talking to me all crazy. And I just told him, I said, I don't mind, you know, doing what you want me to do in here and taking directions from you. But I said, don't micromanage me and don't stand over me and try to just, you know, micromanage me. And he didn't like that. So he wound up putting me in the hole and said I was being disobedient. So I went into the hole in Marion and down there with them damn vice lords and GDs and BDs and stuff like that. So I was, you know, I was in there with all of them and in a 3-man cell in the shoe, 23-hour lockdown again. And eventually I had to stay down there till I went through their little kangaroo court so they can let me back out into the camp, because I was in the camp in Marion. And I would go over and work in the cafeteria, washing dishes and stuff, and then bringing the food down to, that's when John Gotti was there, you know, Jeff Ford, you know, all of them cats was there. I would bring the food down to them in there, and that was another game changer, for a wake-up call for me too, because I was like, damn, these cats is just, they were always on 23-hour lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, because that's a level 5 prison when I was there. So it was like I was like, nah, it was so dismal and depressing just to take the food down there, you know. And I was like, nah, this is not the way my story's gonna unfold. And so long story short, when I was in my own cell down there in 23-hour lockdown, the chief psychiatrist in Marion, USP, he would come down and ask me, "Are you okay?" and everything. And so I got to politicking with him, and he asked me what I wanted to do when I got out, and I said I want to work in mental health. And he was like, "I'll bring you some books if you want." And so he would bring me books down there, and I would read the books, give them back to him. And then he said, "I'm starting a program where I'm having, whenever you get out of here, you go back to the camp." He said, "I'm having volunteers come over for the people that we're transferring to Springfield, because Springfield was the mental health facility that, when people started going crazy in there in the prison, rubbing doodle on the walls and stuff like that. Um, they would have them in isolation, and then they needed somebody to watch them overnight, constantly monitor them. And so they asked for some inmates in the camp to come and do a volunteer thing, to come over and just sit, watch the camera all night long, and then just do DAP notes. That's where I learned to start doing DAP notes and stuff like that.
And what are those? What is that? DAP notes?
Describing, assessment, and then plan. So just what I saw, noticing and describing what I saw, and different things like that. So I would do that every 15 minutes all throughout the night, and then I would go over and go to sleep and then come back and do it again. So I did that for some months while I was in there. And this dude, the chief psychiatrist, he wrote me up. He wrote me up a letter, and didn't put none of the stuff on there that I was locked up or nothing. He just put on there that he was in this program. He did this. He did a good job. These are the things that he did, and wrote the letter and put his name on there and put the stamp on there and everything, and didn't put anything on there that I was locked up or nothing. So I took that one piece of paper, and when I went out to Hawaii, I shopped it. And then I wound up getting in the Bobby Benson Center out on the North Shore, and started working with the adolescents in a residential substance abuse treatment facility. And I just posted up there and learned everything I could do. I started doing anger management groups. I started doing relapse prevention groups and stuff like that. So got my foot in the door with that. And I'm still going to University of Phoenix until I finished that. And then I wound up moving from there to a straight up psych hospital, and I was working as a psych tech in Kahi Mohala, Sutter Health. And I was doing that till I got my bachelor's. And when I got my bachelor's, I wound up working as a case manager in the community, a mental health case manager. And I started doing that and working around that, and going to, the clients' therapy meetings and stuff, and seeing what they was doing. I was watching everything, because that's what you do when you get out of, you just watch, So I was watching everything, watching how they was doing notes, watching how they was doing insurance billing. And I was like, man, I could do this. And so I wound up going to the Hawaii Pacific University while I was doing that, and got my master's degree in social work. And that set the stage for me to eventually come over here. And, I went to the School of Family Therapy, and wound up getting some more certification and some more hours. The boys was latchkey. I was kind of taking time away from them, but I was in pragmatic mode.
Yeah.
And, wound up getting my license, took the LCSW exam, wound up doing that, took the LAC exam, wound up doing that, got licensed, and, started my own private practice, and wham.
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on here, because I'm just really inspired by your story. It could have went a million different directions, and your path still led you to something that was meant for you. Like the work that you do, it's so fitting. Like I can see why you're so good at it, because you have a very genuine nature to your approach. And it's just inspiring to know that just because something happens to you, just because of your upbringing or your circumstances or situations, while that's a factor for why you can't, not specifically, but why a person can't get out of it, it doesn't mean that it's like a death wish. Like there were many opportunities for you to be like, fuck it, I'm not doing this. I'm getting back into the streets. I'm doing that stuff that's just more for me. And unfortunately, a lot of people get caught into that cycle. but you didn't. And I feel that, you know, a lot of people need to just know that just because something happens, if you end up in jail or whatever, that doesn't mean that that's the end. It just means you got to fight a little bit harder. So, with that said, I wanted to close out by asking you,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell your younger self? Like, what advice or what kind of insight would you tell your younger self in order to prepare him for who you are now?
You know, I definitely find a very creative and innovative way to tell my younger self that you are a divine being, you know, and that you have, you have the greatest potential, you know, and that, and yeah, and that you can do whatever you need to do. Um, Focus on it, work with your breath, and yeah, you can make things happen.
Perfect. Thank you so
Mhm.
much, Kim, for joining me today. I
Oh,
will
no, I'm
make
glad
sure
catching
to
up
have
with you.
the
Yeah.
links for your website, the
Mm-hmm.
people, the therapists of color. Was that what it was called? Yeah.
TOCC, the Therapist of Color Collaborative.
Their Therapist of Color Collaborative. I'll provide that
Mm-hmm.
information. I'm
Mm-hmm.
Swan. This is Black Like Vanilla. Check us out,
Mm-hmm.
www.blacklikevanilla.com.
Yeah,
Peace.
that.